People say success heals old wounds, but no one tells you what happens when the person who caused those wounds comes back, asking for a piece of your healing. My name is Claire Matthews, and I thought I had buried my past for good. Until one quiet evening, when a knock on my door reminded me that some ghosts don't stay buried. I still remember the sound of that knock, soft, hesitant. Like whoever was behind it wasn't sure if they wanted to be there. I was just finishing up an email for work. Another late night. My apartment was quiet, except for the hum of my computer. Outside, the streetlights painted the windows gold, and for once, life felt calm. Then came that knock again. When I opened the door, my breath caught. Standing there was my mother, the woman I hadn't seen in almost 20 years. And beside her stood a teenage boy, tall, nervous, clutching a backpack. For a second, I couldn't move. My mind was trying to match her face with the last memory I had of her, the day she left. She looked older now, softer, maybe, but her eyes were exactly the same, cold, calculating. "Claire," she said, smiling, like nothing had ever happened. "It's been too long." I wanted to slam the door right there, but something in me froze. Maybe curiosity, maybe shock, and I just stood there. Then she gestured to the boy beside her. "This is Ethan," she said. "Your brother." Brother. The word hit like a strange echo, unfamiliar, uncomfortable. I didn't know how to respond. Ethan gave me a half smile, the kind kids give when they don't really want to be somewhere. He didn't look much like me, same hazel eyes maybe, but everything else screamed stranger. Before I could say anything, my mother spoke again. "We were in the neighborhood," she said, her tone casual. "Thought we'd stop by." But I knew she wasn't there by coincidence. Nobody just happens to find the daughter they abandoned 2 decades ago. I invited them in, against my better judgment. My gut told me this wasn't going to end well. Inside, the air felt thick. Ethan wandered around, staring at the photos on my shelves. Me and my dad, my graduation, the first apartment I bought. Every picture was a reminder of what she'd missed. "You've done well for yourself," my mother said, scanning the living room. Her voice carried this faint sweetness, but underneath I could hear it. Envy. I nodded, trying to keep things polite. "Yeah, it took a while, but I'm doing okay." She smiled wider. "I always knew you would be. You were always so driven. Even as a kid, I wanted to say, driven because you left. But I didn't, not yet. Instead, I asked about her life, where she'd been, how she'd been doing. She gave vague answers. Here and there, she said, it's been complicated." She didn't mention my dad, didn't ask about him either. Then she glanced at Ethan and said, almost too casually, "He's starting college soon. We're really proud of him." Ethan shrugged, scrolling through his phone. Then he looked up and said, "Mom told me you work at a big company. Must be nice." I forced a small smile. "I work hard for it." That's when my mother leaned forward and said something that made my stomach twist. "Claire, you're doing so well now, and Ethan's about to start school. We could really use a little help, just until we get on our feet." My chest tightened. I waited for her to laugh, but she didn't. Then she added, "Maybe $2,000 a month, just for a year or two." For a moment, I thought I misheard her. $2,000 a month? I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. "Mom," I said, "you can't be serious." Ethan looked up from his phone, smirking. "Come on, you can afford it," he said. "You've got a nice place." That smirk, that entitlement, it flipped something inside me. I wasn't angry yet, just stunned. This wasn't a family visit, it was a setup. As they sat there, I couldn't help but drift back to the last day I saw her. I was 9. My parents had been fighting for months, shouting matches, slammed doors, nights when I'd pretend to be asleep so I wouldn't hear. One morning, she packed a suitcase. I remember standing in the hallway, clutching my stuffed bear, watching her zip it shut. "Where are you going?" I asked. She didn't answer. My dad stood in the doorway, begging her to stay. She said, "I can't do this anymore," and walked out. No hug, no goodbye, just gone. My dad tried to make up for it, working double shifts at the repair shop. Always tired, but never too tired to ask about my day. He was my hero. He used to say, "You'll build something better than this one day, kiddo. Just don't forget who helped you get there." And I never did. Now, 2 decades later, she was sitting in my living room asking for money, as if all of that never happened. I took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry, but I can't do that." Her smile faltered. "Can't or won't?" "Won't," I said flatly. Her voice sharpened. "You're really going to turn your back on your family?" I met her eyes. "Family doesn't walk out and come back for a payday." Ethan rolled his eyes. Wow, guess success really changes people. Something inside me snapped. "Success didn't change me," I said quietly. "It showed me who actually cared." Silence. Then she stood up, her expression hardening. "You'll regret this, Claire," she said. I didn't answer. I just opened the door and waited. She hesitated for a second, then left, dragging Ethan behind her. The door clicked shut. And with it, 20 years of buried pain opened all over again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. I kept replaying the conversation, her face, Ethan's smirk, that word, selfish. Was I selfish? A small part of me wondered. But deep down, I knew the truth. I had spent my entire life earning everything alone. No one had shown up for me. Not her. So why did she think she could now? The next morning, my phone buzzed. A message from her. "We should talk things through." Maybe I came off too strong, I almost ignored it, but a part of me needed closure. Or maybe just answers. So I agreed to meet her the next day. I told myself it would just be a conversation. One coffee, one explanation. But what happened in that cafe would change everything I thought I knew about forgiveness, family, and the lengths people will go when they want something. The next morning, I woke up early, earlier than usual. Sleep had been impossible. My mind kept replaying her face, her words, that tone. It was like the past had been reopened and now it refused to close. I told myself meeting her was about getting closure. But deep down, I think I wanted to see if there was any truth left between us. Any part of her that still cared. The cafe we chose was a small place near my office. Warm lighting, the smell of espresso and cinnamon rolls. The kind of spot where people write novels or fall in love. But for me, it would be where another chapter ended. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window, stirring her coffee even though it looked untouched. When she saw me, she smiled. That same sugar-coated smile from the night before. It felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced it in the mirror. "Claire," she said softly, "thank you for coming." I sat down, trying to keep my tone even. "You said you wanted to talk things through," she nodded, folding her hands like she was about to deliver bad news. "I didn't mean to upset you last night," she said. "It just came out wrong." I stayed silent. She glanced out the window, then back at me. "Things have been hard, you know. The last few years, after Ethan's father passed, I've been doing everything on my own. Bills, rent, school, it's just too much sometimes." For a second, I almost felt sympathy. Almost. But then I remembered the years my dad worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. The times we ate cereal for dinner because there wasn't enough money for groceries. She wasn't there then. She looked at me carefully, her voice softening. "I'm not asking for much. Just some help while Ethan gets through school. You have such a good heart, Claire. I know you wouldn't turn your back on your family." There it was, the guilt card. And she played it like a pro. I took a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Mom," I said, "you left. You walked out when I was 9. You didn't write. You didn't call. I don't even know why you're here now." Her eyes glistened. "I was young," she whispered. "I made mistakes. But I've always loved you." That word, love, hit differently when it came from her. It sounded less like affection and more like strategy. She reached across the table, touching my hand. "I know I hurt you," she said. "But can't we move past it? We're family, Claire. We need each other." I pulled my hand back gently. "Needing each other is one thing," I said. "Using each other is another." Her expression hardened. Just like that, the softness evaporated. "You think you're better than me now, don't you?" I blinked. "That's not what I said." She leaned in, voice sharp. "You think because you have a fancy job and money, you get to judge me?" People at the nearby table started to glance over. I kept my tone low. "I'm not judging you. I'm protecting myself." She laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Protecting yourself from me? Your own mother?" "From what you've become," I said quietly. Her face froze. And for a moment, I saw it. the truth behind the mask. This wasn't about reconciliation. It was about control. Before I could stand up, Ethan walked in. I hadn't realized she'd brought him. He strolled over, phone in hand, like this was a casual meetup. "Hey," he said, sliding into the booth beside her. "Mom said you were talking things out." I forced a smile. Something like that. He didn't waste time. "You could at least buy me a decent car," he said. "Everyone at college has one. You make good money, right?" I stared at him, speechless. It was like he thought I owed him something, like we were family in name only, but not in effort, not in pain. My mother sighed dramatically. "Ethan, don't be rude." Then she turned back to me. "But he does have a point. You could help." Just until he settled, I shook my head. "This isn't about helping. This is about handouts." Her eyes narrowed. "You think you're so righteous," she hissed. "But you don't know what it's like to struggle like we have." "Struggle?" I repeated. "You left your family, Mom." "You chose this life." Ethan stood, frustrated. "This is pointless," he muttered. "She's not gonna help." And that's when my mother's tone changed, colder, sharper, with something darker beneath it. "You'll regret this, Claire," she said again. But this time, it wasn't disappointment in her voice. It was threat. When they left, I just sat there for a while, staring at the half-empty coffee cup in front of me. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. It wasn't anger anymore. It was something heavier, betrayal mixed with disbelief. I had come looking for closure. Instead, I got confirmation that closure wasn't something she was capable of giving. I walked back to my office in a daze. The day passed like a blur. Meetings, emails, fake smiles. But the whole time, my mind replayed her words. "You'll regret this." 2 nights later, I got an email alert. Unrecognized login attempt. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe a glitch, maybe some spam. But then my bank sent another notification. Password changed from unknown device. My chest went cold. I logged in immediately. 3 failed login attempts. Then a new device listed. Location, same city as my mother's address. My heart sank. I froze for a minute, staring at the screen. Number. She wouldn't, she couldn't, but she did. I checked my dad's email next, just in case. Password invalid. I called him. He sounded tired, confused. "Claire, did you change my email? I can't log in." That's when it hit me. She wasn't just after my money, she was digging, trying to find out how much I had. I checked the recovery details on his account. The name was hers. I felt sick. This wasn't manipulation anymore, it was theft. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at my laptop. Part of me wanted to confront her, to drive to her house, scream, demand answers, but another part of me was just done. Done being the bigger person. Done pretending we could ever fix something that had been broken for so long. So I did the only thing left to do. I called my lawyer. Filing a restraining order felt surreal. You never think you'll need to protect yourself from your own mother. But there I was, signing papers that made it official. My lawyer told me to change all my passwords, freeze my accounts, lock everything down. It felt cold, mechanical, but necessary. And when she tried to move $8,000 from my account a week later, the investigators traced it straight back to her IP address. There was no denying it now. The woman who gave me life had tried to steal from me. After that, she disappeared. No more messages, no more knocks, no more fake apologies. But the silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Some nights, I'd still wake up expecting another message, another attempt, another betrayal. But it never came. Instead, I was left with the echo of her voice. "You'll regret this." And maybe, in some twisted way, I did. Not because I turned her away, but because I had ever let myself hope she'd changed. I thought that would be the end of it. That once the paperwork was filed and the accounts were secure, I could move on. But grief has a way of lingering. And guilt, even when undeserved, doesn't fade easily. It took almost a year before I found a way to turn all that pain into something meaningful. And that decision would change everything again. The morning after the investigation closed, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. It was finally over, at least on paper. No more threats, no more emails. No more pretending that the person who left me was still my mother. But peace doesn't arrive just because the noise stops. It's the silence that hurts the most. For weeks, I drifted through my days like a ghost in my own life, Work, gym, sleep, repeat. On the outside, everything looked perfect. Inside, I was cracked and tired. I'd built this life to prove I could survive without her. Now that I'd done it, I didn't even know what survival was supposed to feel like. Some nights, I'd sit on my balcony overlooking the city and ask myself questions I couldn't answer. What if she'd stayed? Would I have turned out softer, kinder, less guarded? Or worse, would I have become just like her? I hated that I still cared. Hated that even after everything she'd done, a part of me still wanted a mother. Not the woman she was, but the one she could have been. Guilt kept whispering that maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe if I'd just helped a little, she wouldn't have tried to steal from me. That's what guilt does. It rewrites reality until you start believing the hurt was your fault. But deep down, I knew the truth. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival. One weekend, I drove back to my hometown in Ohio to see my dad. The drive was long, but familiar. Fields rolling by, the same gas stations, the same diner sign half lit in the distance. When I pulled into the driveway, he was outside fixing the old mailbox again, hands covered in grease. "Still can't keep that thing standing, huh?" I joked. He looked up, smiled. "Some things aren't meant to last, kiddo. You just patch them till they do." That line hit harder than he knew. We sat on the porch later, sipping lemonade, the evening sun painting the world gold. I finally told him everything: the visit, the money, the hack, the investigation. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he let out a long breath. "I always hoped she'd change," he said quietly. "But some people love what you can give them, not who you are." I asked if he was angry. He shook his head. "No, just sad. For her, for you, for all the years she missed." Then he looked at me, eyes steady. "But I'm proud of you. You did what I couldn't. You walked away." That was the first time I let myself cry. Back in Austin, something shifted. I couldn't stop thinking about the kids who grow up like I did, carrying wounds that never quite heal because they think they're alone. What if they didn't have to be? So I started small. I reached out to my old college counselor, asked about mentorship programs for students from single-parent homes. One email turned into a meeting. One meeting turned into a plan. Within 3 months, I launched a mentorship fund, the Matthews Initiative. We paired students with mentors, helped them apply for scholarships, taught them financial literacy, the kind of tools I had to figure out the hard way. At first, it was just me and a few volunteers, but word spread. Soon, local businesses started donating. Then my company matched funds. By the end of the first year, we'd helped 23 students. Every success story felt like reclaiming a piece of my childhood. One night, a girl named Lina sent me an email. She wrote, "Greater than thank you for believing in me. No one ever has." Before I stared at that message for a long time. Those words, they were the ones I'd wanted to hear from my mother. And for the first time, I realized I didn't need her to say them anymore. Almost a year after the cafe incident, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address, just my name, written in familiar cursive. I knew who it was before I even opened it. Inside was a short letter. No apology, no explanation, just one sentence. "I hope you're happy now." I folded it once, then again, and dropped it into the trash. For the first time, I didn't cry, because I was happy. Not perfectly, not completely, but genuinely. Happiness wasn't about forgetting the pain. It was about building something beautiful beside it. People often tell me how strong I am for cutting her off, but strength isn't what it looks like. It's not shouting or slamming doors or making grand speeches about independence. Sometimes strength is sitting alone on a quiet night and whispering to yourself, "I did the right thing," even when it hurts. I used to think family was defined by blood. Now I know it's defined by loyalty, by the people who stay when life gets hard, not the ones who show up when it gets easy. My dad, those students, even the friends who stood by me through it all, they're my family now. And maybe that's enough. If I could go back and talk to that 9-year-old girl watching her mother walk out the door, I'd tell her this: you'll spend years trying to earn love from people who don't know how to give it. But one day, you'll realize the love you were looking for has been growing quietly inside you all along. I tell her that forgiveness isn't about letting people back in. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of waiting for an apology that may never come. And most of all, I tell her she'll be okay, because she'll learn that healing isn't forgetting, it's remembering without breaking. Last month, I hosted the first scholarship dinner for the mentorship program. The hall was packed with students and families. laughter echoing off the walls. At the end of the night, one of the parents came up to me. She hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for giving my daughter hope." I smiled, but what I wanted to say was, she gave me hope too. Driving home, I rolled the windows down and let the city lights blur into streaks of gold. For the first time in a long time, the air felt light again. My mother's shadow might always follow me, but it no longer leads me. I've built something she can't touch, a life rooted in kindness, not guilt, and that's the real revenge. Peace. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you love, remember this. You don't owe anyone your peace just because they share your DNA. You have the right to protect your heart, even from family. Pain can build walls, yes, but it can also build foundations. It built mine. So when the past comes knocking, you don't always have to open the door. Sometimes you can just look through the peephole, smile, and whisper, "I've already moved on," and mean it. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you face something similar, tell me in the comments below. Your story might help someone else heal too. Because the truth is, family isn't about who hurt you. It's about who helps you rebuild.